Hi, I'm TFL Commissioner Scott Lacey. And you know, since the TFL was conceived in the Anchorage apartment of Ken Sane back in 1990, we've seen many things. There have been press releases, newsletters, even a media guide. Now the problem with this is TFL owners are a notably difficult bunch. They're not happy if you trot out the same old tired vehicles from year to year. We think we have a remedy for this. TFL Films. Now the intent of this organization is simple: to document the lush and abundant history of the Times Football League. Without further ado, we present you While Tony Slept, the Times Football League story.
TFL is the NFL of fantasy ball, and every other league is arena football at best.
It's a joy to be part of something that is this big now, because honestly, this has to be the best fantasy league in America, of any sport.
Commitment, certainly friendship, a little bit of joy, and some pain.
This is the story of the Times Football League, a league of men bound by common values, a thirst for competition, and the ability to watch 24 consecutive hours of televised football. This is the Times Football League.
It takes a certain kind of person that's willing to just drop everybody they know or everything they know and move to a place like Alaska. So you had a bunch of people basically looking for friends, and he was able to find that friendships and their co-workers. And you don't really see that in America today. I mean, most people go to work and they work with these people, but when work's over, they don't want to deal with them.
But they would be drawn even closer, thanks to a bear of a man named Ken Sane. He taught them about fantasy football. It changed their lives forever. The first draft was held in August 1990 in Ken Sane's apartment.
My recollections are of, 10 to 12 guys crammed into a rather small apartment, a TV in one corner, a couple sofas, a lazy boy recliner, well, one of those kind of therapeutic recliners.
Sane's apartment may have been modest, but the new league was anything but. TFL owner soon transformed his game into an exercise in lunacy. And Sane, a veteran fantasy commissioner in the lower 48, was intrigued by this newfound zeal.
Then I brought it up to Anchorage, and the things that I remember about that was how it took a life of its own. I mean, yes, I can play fantasy football, but to see owners getting together and having press releases about their teams each week and having press conferences, and I think they were ready to set up a special TFL file just where they could put all these press releases. I mean, and then it was the first time anybody had ever done helmets for their football teams. I mean, it's where it started getting out of control.
Indeed, even sports editor John Sweeney, who had banned rotisserie baseball talk the previous summer, became enamored of the TFL. So much so that fantasy football chatter became not only tolerated, but encouraged.
All I could think of was, this must be quite an addiction if even the venerable John Sweeney would let down one of his rules like that.
They were young, vibrant, seemingly invincible, and the league that they forged at the time seemed indestructible. They would soon learn otherwise.
Just the suddenness of it was what had really struck me. There had been absolutely no warning whatsoever. Just one day you walk in and, you're working on your last edition.
On June 2nd, 1992, the members of the Times sports staff were summoned to an uncustomary midday meeting. The contents of the meeting were shocking. The Anchorage Times, for 77 years the voice of Alaska, was folding.
And I remember that on the way from my car into the building, walking down the street, I noticed Bill Allen, the publisher, flanked by 2 or 3 men in black suits.
Once inside, Katz and other Times staffers could only wait helplessly outside a glass-walled office while editor Randolph Murray broke the news to a group of managers.
While we were being told this, you could see the other staffers outside the window just kind of walking by. And some of them didn't even try to hide like they weren't interested. They were just sitting out there staring.
Soon it was official. Times sports staffers, along with more than 400 other employees, would be out of work by sunset. The eulogies began.
Probably the most memorable line and truthful one was about concerned the Daily News. Jenkins said they couldn't beat us, so they had to buy us.
The grief was immense. Times staffers, suddenly unemployed, struggled to grasp their situations. Some mourned silently, others drowned their sorrows in drink.
I guess, there was almost a schedule of events for the evening. First was the keyboard, then the next part was to go over and watch the presses run for the last time. And I couldn't bring myself to do that. I mean, to me it would, to me it'd be like, going to the morgue to make sure the body with the tag around its toe was really your wife.
But the folding of the Times did more than signal the end of a grand old newspaper. Commissioner Sane, burdened by the demands of a protracted job search, was content to let his fantasy creation drift into extinction. After just 2 years, the Times Football League appeared dead.
based on my past history, you go to a newspaper, you start a new league. You don't worry about the past ones.
And Sane, the only commissioner the TFL had ever known, was prepared to do just that. He was by then an editor at the Los Angeles Daily News, consumed by the grind of learning a new job. And the other TFL owners, as columnist Jeb Jinko would later write, had scattered like marbles across the face of North America. The TFL, after a short but glorious run of 2 years, appeared through. One man, though, disagreed. Panama City owner Scott Lacey, then the sports editor of a tiny Arizona newspaper, was reluctant to oversee the passing of the league. He was a single man, alone in the desert outpost of Lake Havasu City, and his thirst for a pastime of any sort had grown to epidemic proportions. Something had to be done. And while he knew the task of resurrecting the league would be a difficult one, he felt it was a task well worth taking on. And the prospect of a football season with no fantasy football was just really too much for me to bear. Lacey began calling other owners, urging them to return to the fold. Many, though, were skeptical.
I had my doubts about Lacey's, shall we say, whether he had the necessities to be a TFL commissioner.
The idea of trying to do this on such a wide range, I just didn't think it possible.
Even Lacey had his doubts, for he had no experience as a commissioner, and the task of organizing a band of far-flung owners was by no means insignificant. It was definitely kind of a leap, technologically to do the draft over the phone. I've never even heard of a league that did a draft over the phone. Despite his fears, Lacey went to work seducing the league's owners, who at that point were scattered in 6 different states. He convinced 7 to return, then filled the vacant slots by signing up a handful of newcomers. They included Chuck Goggins, Michael Bork, Chris Reedy, and Von Williams. To everyone's surprise, the far-flung version of the TFL thrived. Owners relished the chance to maintain long-standing trash-talking relationships.
I think the fact that suddenly we were spread all over the place in TFL owners, it gave a lot of us a resolve to continue playing TFL football as possibly our only means of staying in contact with one another.
The TFL's newfound popularity spawned a hot new debate. Who should be the rightful father of the TFL? Should it be Scott Lacey, who transformed the league into the envy of fantasy leagues worldwide?
Absolutely not. I mean, that's like saying that should Michael Jordan be considered the real father of minor league baseball?
There's an old country saying that if you step in cow shit, you don't get mad at the cow. And that's what I think of when I think of Scott Lacey.
It was a dark period for Ken Sane. He could only watch as Lacey produced media guides and transformed the league into the glistening jewel of fantasy leagues worldwide. He became a bitter man.
I am the TFL. The TFL would have no life without me. My blood runs through it. It came from my loins.
Just creating something doesn't mean that you made it what it is. You can give birth to a young boy, but if you abandon it, it becomes a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Did you really have anything to do with it? The founding father debate may rage forever, but there is one issue that brooks no argument. The TFL is a frightening place. From owners such as the chromosomally deficient Michelle Fetzko, to the doctor's strange-love looks of Nate Sagan, to the party boy antics of Casey Brogan, the TFL remains, in every sense, a laughing matter. There are the loud and the braggadocious. And then there are those who seem terminally dumbfounded. there are some who inspire us with their wit and sapience, and others who are just in over their head. You'll find them all in the Times Football League.